I wonder if I'll ever find my way. I wonder if my life could really change at all.
It's a radical idea. Again, if you're coming from a culture that thinks God is angry and we need to appease him through this system, and now you have this preacher type, this lady, this progressive preacher who's like, no, you don't have to appease God. God has done everything needed for you to have access to the divine. That's crazy talk.
We sing to him, you make beautiful things, you make beautiful things out of dust.
And so Hebrews says, because Jesus is greater, because of the life, death, and the resurrection of Jesus, let us draw near. Let us hold unswervingly to the hope we profess. For he who promised is faithful. I am a prisoner of hope. How in a world like ours, how in the church world where the statistics are just awful, like it's, what did I read? 20% of churches closing since COVID started? I don't know if it's that. I don't know if that's the exact number, but how do we remain hopeful in a world with so much going on?
This comes from my dad, who I used to always go to when it felt like my life was caving in. He had a larger perspective. He who was in, one of the wars, and he who had lived closer to the Holocaust, and he gave me a perspective that just said, look at the things we as a nation, as God's people, as a family, whatever unit you're talking about, have been through. And so the larger perspective shows us that that what we're seeing is not the end of the story, that Jesus is the end of the story.
I think one of the gifts, and so one of the gifts the church, and this is like totally contrary to me. So I think one of the gifts the church could give the world, it would not to be optimistic and not to ignore pessimism that we have at times, but would be to truly embody a posture of hopefulness. Because I think a posture of hopefulness allows us to write people off, doesn't allow us to give up. So maybe a cruciform posture of hopefulness that allows us to bear the brunt of the real pain, but to cling to hope nonetheless. Maybe that's what Pastor Priscilla is truly saying. Verse 24, let us consider how we may spur one another on towards love and good deeds. We'll come back to that. Not giving up meeting together as some are in the habit of doing, but encouraging one another, all the more as you see the day approaching. Verse 24, it's interesting. The let us consider how we may spur one another on. It sounds like a really motivational thing. How am I going to be optimistic and motivational enough to spur Pastor Laura on in her life? But the word, like if you go in the Greek, the word is not like this optimistic motivational. The actual word is agitate. Now remember, this is written to the church. This is not written to, it's not like we're being called by Pastor Priscilla to go out into the world and agitate all the people out there. But the word is, we are called from within the church. How can we agitate? It's a strong word. How can we push? How can we spur? How can we turn the knife a little bit in really loving ways in each other's lives, remembering what the purpose is for good deeds and for love. How are we supposed to do that in a COVID world? We're like not meeting in person, so we're not really having dinner in each other's homes. We're not as in like, we don't know each other's kids. We don't know each other's stories as well as we did 18 months ago. We don't know the pains, the hurts, the stressor points. And yet there's this pastor who's writing to this church that's saying, if we're gonna draw near to God, if we're going to enter into the holy place that we don't have access to, if we're going to be a people of hope, that is inevitably done in community. And a part of living in community is we've got to agitate each other towards love and good deeds. How do we spur one another on? How do we agitate the church to be a more loving community that gives itself to good deeds? And how do we do that in a world where we're so distanced because of COVID, because of our politics, because of social media, how do we agitate each other in such a way that agitation drives us to be more loving and given over to good deeds? Whew.
You make me new. You are making me new. You make me new. You are making me new.
And the point, again, remember the point what Pastor Priscilla is saying. Love and good deeds. So the work of the church, what are we to be about in the world? Love and good deeds. Love and good, say it with me. Love and good deeds. So put on your dang mask and get vaccinated. That's right, I said it. Love and good deeds.
You make beautiful things. You make beautiful things out of us. You make beautiful things. You make beautiful things out of dust.
Love and good deeds.
You make beautiful things. You make beautiful things out of us.